Tonight, you are listening to Calm Facts About Space. There is nothing you need to do while listening, and nothing you need to remember. If your thoughts drift, that is completely fine. The narration will continue at a steady pace, whether you are awake or asleep. Space does not begin suddenly. There is no clear boundary where Earth ends and space begins. Instead, the atmosphere gradually becomes thinner as altitude increases, fading layer by layer until only traces remain. Beyond this point, sound cannot travel, because there is no air to carry vibrations. Movement still happens, but it happens in complete silence. Motion, collisions, and change occur without noise, without echoes, and without disturbance. Earth moves through this silent environment continuously. Even now, the planet is rotating beneath you, completing a full turn roughly every 24 hours. At the same time, Earth is traveling around the Sun, following a smooth and stable path. Along with the Sun, the entire solar system is moving through the Milky Way galaxy. These motions are constant and uninterrupted, yet they are not felt by those on Earth's surface. There is no sensation of speed or direction. Cosmic motion happens quietly and without effort. The Sun sits at the center of our solar system. It is an average star, neither unusually large nor unusually small. Deep within its core, nuclear fusion converts hydrogen into helium, releasing energy in the form of light and heat. This process is stable and long-lasting, allowing the Sun to shine steadily for billions of years. The light you see from the Sun takes just over 8 minutes to reach Earth, meaning that even sunlight carries a small delay. In space, distance and time are always connected. Around the Sun, planets follow predictable paths shaped by gravity. Each orbit is balanced and consistent, rarely changing over long periods. The distances between planets are far greater than they appear in diagrams or images. Most of space is empty, with objects separated by vast regions of darkness. This emptiness is not chaotic. It creates stability, allowing motions to remain smooth and uninterrupted. Stars that appear close together in the night sky are often separated by enormous distances. The sky presents a flat image, but space itself is deeply three-dimensional. Stars form slowly from clouds of gas and dust drifting through space. Over millions of years, gravity draws this material inward, increasing density and temperature until a new star begins to shine. There is no sudden moment of birth, only gradual change guided by time. Once formed, stars spend most of their existence in a stable state. During this phase, they change very little. Their brightness remains steady, and their size stays balanced. When stars eventually change, they do so slowly. Some expand and cool, while others release material back into space. These elements later become part of new stars and planets. Every atom heavier than hydrogen was formed inside a star, meaning the materials that make up planets, oceans, and living organisms all originated in stellar processes. Planets form from leftover material surrounding young stars. Small particles collide and gently stick together, growing larger over time. Some planets become rocky, while others collect thick layers of gas. Each planet reflects the conditions of its formation, shaped by distance, temperature, and gravity. Earth occupies a stable region around the Sun, where temperatures allow liquid water to exist. Even small changes in this balance would have produced a very different world. The Moon moves quietly around Earth, following a predictable orbit. Over long periods, it has helped stabilize Earth's rotation, contributing to consistent cycles of day and night. Gravity governs motion everywhere in space, shaping orbits and organizing structure. Although gravity is powerful, it acts gently across vast distances, favoring balance rather than sudden change. Beyond the planets lies the outer edge of the solar system, where sunlight becomes faint, and objects move slowly through extreme cold. Past this region lies interstellar space, which is not completely empty, but filled with thin clouds of gas drifting between stars. The Milky Way galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars, all moving together in a slow rotation around its center. A single orbit around the galaxy takes hundreds of millions of years. Galaxies themselves are separated by immense distances, yet they are not isolated. Gravity connects them, guiding slow interactions over enormous spans of time. On the largest scales, the universe appears smooth and evenly distributed, with no central point and no preferred direction. Time itself behaves slightly differently depending on gravity, passing more slowly near massive objects and more quickly in emptier regions. Nothing in space rushes. Processes unfold at their own pace, across spans far longer than a human lifetime. As you rest, Earth continues its quiet rotation, the solar system moves steadily onward, and the galaxy turns without pause. You do not need to follow any of this. The universe continues without attention, and the narration will continue as well, gently and calmly as you rest. Space appears still, but it is never truly motionless. Objects move continuously, guided by gravity and momentum, yet the scale of distance makes this motion feel almost frozen. Stars travel through their galaxies, planets circle their stars, and galaxies themselves drift through expanding space. These movements are not hurried. They unfold slowly, without sudden changes or sharp turns, creating a sense of quiet consistency. Light is the fastest thing in the universe, yet even light takes time to travel. When you look at the night sky, you are not seeing objects as they are right now. You are seeing them as they were in the past. Light from the moon takes just over a second to reach Earth. Light from the sun takes a little more than 8 minutes. Light from distant stars can take thousands or even millions of years to arrive. The universe allows observation, but only with patience. This delay turns space into a record of history. Every direction contains layers of time, stacked quietly behind one another. Some of the stars you see no longer exist in their original form. Their light continues traveling, long after their structure has changed. The universe preserves information without intention, simply by allowing light to move through space. Between stars lies interstellar space, which appears empty, but is filled with extremely thin gas and dust. These particles are spread so far apart that collisions are rare. In many regions, a single atom may drift alone for long periods without encountering another. This emptiness creates calm rather than disorder. Without crowding, movement remains gentle and predictable. Gravity continues to shape this vast environment. Though its influence weakens with distance, gravity never disappears. Over long spans of time, it slowly gathers matter, guiding gas clouds toward collapse and structure. Gravity does not rush. It allows balance to form naturally, favoring smooth transitions instead of sudden events. Large clouds of gas and dust, known as nebulae, drift through space in slow motion. Their shapes change gradually, sculpted by gravity and radiation from nearby stars. Within these clouds, regions of slightly higher density may begin to contract. Over millions of years, these regions can form new stars. The process is quiet and extended, without any single dramatic moment. Planets move through space with similar calm. They do not generate their own light, but reflect the light of their stars. From a distance, planets appear as steady points, wandering slowly against the background of stars. Their motion is predictable and smooth, following paths that remain stable for extremely long periods. Some planets are made mostly of gas without a solid surface. In these worlds, pressure increases gradually with depth. There is no clear boundary between atmosphere and interior. If descent were possible, it would feel like a continuous transition rather than a sudden change. Even extreme environments in space tend to avoid sharp divisions. Moons are common companions to planets. Many are locked in stable orbits that rarely change. Some moons rotate at the same rate they orbit, always facing the same side toward their planet. This synchronization creates a quiet regularity, where motion and stillness exist together. Small objects, such as asteroids and comets, also follow long, gentle paths through space. Most remain undisturbed for millions of years. Collisions are rare because space offers so much room. When impacts do happen, they are separated by long intervals of calm. Space favors stability over disruption. Beyond individual star systems lie galaxies, each containing billions of stars bound together by gravity. Galaxies rotate slowly, taking hundreds of millions of years to complete a single turn. Their spiral arms shift gradually, and their overall structure remains stable across immense spans of time. Galaxies are not evenly scattered. They form clusters and long filaments, with vast empty regions between them. These patterns emerge naturally from gravity, acting over billions of years. Even on the largest scales, the universe organizes itself without urgency. Space itself is expanding. Galaxies are carried farther apart as the distance between them slowly increases. This expansion does not have a center and does not resemble an explosion. It happens everywhere at once, gently stretching space over time. Objects are not rushing away from one another. The space between them is simply growing. Temperatures in space are extremely low. Without nearby stars, objects slowly lose heat and approach a uniform cold. Energy spreads out evenly, reducing extremes. Over long periods, the universe moves toward balance rather than intensity. Despite its size and complexity, the universe follows simple principles. Motion is smooth, energy is conserved, change is gradual. These rules apply everywhere, creating a sense of quiet reliability. As you rest, all of this continues. Earth turns steadily beneath you. The solar system moves gently through the galaxy. The galaxy drifts through expanding space. Nothing demands attention. Nothing requires effort. The universe allows time to pass slowly, and the facts continue to flow calmly, carrying you onward as you relax. Space is often described as empty, yet it contains subtle structure everywhere. Even in regions far from stars, faint particles drift silently, tracing gentle paths shaped by gravity. These particles move slowly, sometimes taking years to cross distances that appear small on diagrams. Nothing pushes them forward. They continue simply because motion, once started, does not need to be maintained in the absence of resistance. In space, there is no air to slow things down. An object set in motion will continue moving unless acted upon by gravity or collision. This creates a sense of persistence rather than force. Motion is not energetic or dramatic. It is quiet and continuous, extending across long spans of time without interruption. The vacuum of space is not perfectly empty. It contains background radiation, a faint echo of the early universe. This radiation fills all of space evenly, providing a subtle warmth just above absolute zero. It is a reminder that the universe has a history, even in its most silent regions. Temperature behaves differently in space than it does on Earth. Without an atmosphere, heat does not spread easily. Objects exposed to sunlight can become warm, while nearby shaded areas remain extremely cold. These contrasts exist side by side, yet change happens slowly. Without air, there is no wind, no weather, and no sudden shifts. Stars vary widely in size and lifespan. Some burn brightly and briefly, while others shine steadily for tens of billions of years. Smaller stars use their fuel slowly, producing a gentle and consistent light. These long-lived stars create stable environments where planetary systems can remain unchanged for vast periods. Planetary systems themselves are often orderly. Orbits rarely intersect. Paths remain predictable. Small adjustments happen over time, but the overall structure persists. Chaos is possible, but stability is far more common. Space favors arrangements that last. Some planets rotate quickly, while others turn slowly. Rotation influences day length, temperature patterns, and atmospheric behavior. Yet even fast rotations occur smoothly. There are no sudden starts or stops. Everything turns at a pace set long ago, continuing without interruption. Many planets tilt slightly on their axes. This tilt creates seasonal changes, though these changes are gentle on a cosmic scale. Seasons are not signs of instability. They are cycles, repeating reliably over time. Repetition is a defining feature of space. The passage of time in space is measured differently. Human clocks are based on Earth's rotation and orbit, but these are local references. Elsewhere, time is marked by slower cycles. A single orbit around a galaxy can take longer than the existence of complex life on Earth. On these scales, change becomes almost imperceptible. Energy moves through space in the form of light and radiation. This energy spreads out as it travels, becoming less concentrated. Over long distances, brightness fades, intensity softens. Space encourages diffusion rather than accumulation. Black holes are among the densest objects in the universe, yet they are not chaotic. Their gravity is strong, but their behavior is predictable. Objects orbit them smoothly unless they come too close. Even extreme environments follow consistent rules. Despite dramatic descriptions, most of space is calm. Violent events are rare and brief compared to the long stretches of quiet that surround them. The universe spends most of its time in balance, not in upheaval. Matter and energy interact gently across vast distances. Forces act slowly. Effects take time to appear. There is no rush for outcomes. Space allows processes to unfold fully, without pressure. As you rest, these principles continue to guide everything. Motion persists without effort. Energy spreads without resistance. Time moves forward at a steady pace. You do not need to observe or understand any of this. The universe continues without expectation, and the narration continues alongside it, steady and calm, allowing your thoughts to drift as the night goes on. Space contains many layers that are not immediately visible. Beyond stars and planets, there are subtle fields and forces that extend quietly across vast distances. Magnetic fields, radiation, and gravity all overlap without conflict, each following simple rules. These invisible structures shape motion without announcing their presence, guiding particles and light in gentle ways. Gravity is the most familiar of these forces. It does not pull suddenly or sharply. Instead, it curves paths slowly, encouraging objects to move together over time. Even where gravity is strong, its effects are smooth. Orbits form naturally, settling into patterns that repeat again and again. Once established, these patterns can last for millions or even billions of years. Light moves through space without resistance. It does not tire or slow down. Yet as it travels, it spreads out, becoming softer and less intense. This spreading creates the gentle darkness between stars. The farther light travels, the calmer it becomes, until it blends into the background glow of the universe. That background glow is known as cosmic background radiation. It fills all of space evenly, arriving from every direction at once. It is extremely faint and uniform, carrying the quiet imprint of the universe's earliest moments. Even in complete darkness, this subtle radiation remains, reminding space of its beginnings. Distance in space changes how things are experienced. From far away, motion appears slower. Events that seem dramatic up close become almost still when viewed across large spans. Space softens extremes by stretching them across time and distance. Nothing feels rushed when seen from far enough away. Stars are not scattered randomly. They often form in groups, born from the same clouds of gas. These star clusters move together through space, slowly drifting apart over time. Even as they separate, they retain similar motions, like quiet companions sharing a long journey. Some stars are accompanied by planetary systems, while others drift alone. Not every star forms planets. Conditions must be just right, and even then, the process takes time. Planet formation is patient, relying on countless small interactions rather than sudden events. Dust plays an important role in space. Tiny grains of matter absorb and scatter light, shaping what can be seen from afar. Dust softens starlight, creating shadows and subtle gradients. Without dust, space would look harsher and more exposed. With it, space gains depth and quiet texture. On Earth, motion often feels immediate. Objects fall quickly. Sounds arrive instantly. In space, effects are delayed. Signals take time to travel. Actions unfold slowly. This delay creates a sense of calm distance, where cause and effect are gently separated by time. Even communication across space requires patience. Signals sent to distant spacecraft take minutes or hours to arrive. Responses take just as long to return. Space encourages waiting, reminding observers that not everything happens at once. Orbits are among the most stable features in space. Once established, they tend to persist. Minor disturbances are often corrected naturally over time. This self-balancing behavior reduces chaos and maintains order. Space prefers paths that can be repeated without change. Large objects influence smaller ones, but smaller objects also influence larger systems in subtle ways. Everything participates in motion together. Nothing is completely isolated. Even the smallest particle contributes to the overall balance. As systems grow larger, their behavior becomes smoother. Individual movements blend into collective patterns. From a distance, complexity fades into simplicity. Motion becomes predictable. Change becomes gradual. The universe does not hurry toward outcomes. It allows processes to complete in their own time. Stars are not rushed to burn brighter. Galaxies are not pushed to collide. Everything proceeds at a pace set long ago. As you rest, these slow patterns continue. Forces remain balanced. Light keeps traveling. Orbits hold steady. Space remains calm and consistent, carrying on quietly while the narration flows alongside it, steady and unhurried, allowing your thoughts to soften and drift. Space encourages patience in everything it contains. Changes happen gradually, often so slowly that they can only be noticed over long periods of observation. Even the largest structures in the universe evolve at a pace that feels almost timeless. What appears fixed and permanent is often only moving on a scale far beyond everyday experience. Stars slowly change as they age. Their brightness, size, and temperature adjust over millions or billions of years. These changes are not abrupt. A star does not suddenly become something else. Instead, it transitions gently, guided by internal balance between gravity and energy. Stability lasts far longer than transformation. Some stars are small and cool, producing a steady, gentle light for extremely long periods. These stars change very little over time, creating calm environments around them. Their consistency makes them some of the most enduring objects in the universe. They simply continue, unchanged, while everything else moves around them. Planetary systems also experience gradual evolution. Orbits shift slightly. Rotations slow or stabilize. Moons move outward over long spans of time. These adjustments are subtle and continuous, rarely noticeable within a single lifetime. Space prefers slow correction rather than sudden rearrangement. Energy in the universe is always moving from concentrated areas to more even distributions. Heat spreads outward. Light disperses. Over time, sharp contrasts soften. This tendency toward balance gives space its calm character. Extremes do not last forever. They fade gently into the background. The darkness of space is not emptiness, but quiet balance. Darkness exists where light has spread thin. It is not a sign of absence, but of distance. Light is still present, just diluted across vast regions. Space is filled with gentle gradients rather than sharp boundaries. Large-scale structures like galaxy clusters form slowly. Individual galaxies drift together under gravity, orbiting shared centers. These motions are slow and measured, taking hundreds of millions of years. Even when galaxies interact, the process unfolds gradually, without sudden disruption. When galaxies pass near each other, their stars usually do not collide. The distances between stars are too great. Instead, the galaxies influence one another through gravity, subtly reshaping their paths. The interaction is gentle, guided by long-term forces rather than immediate impact. Time and space feels expansive. Without daily cycles of light and darkness, there is no natural rhythm like there is on Earth. Events are measured by motion and change rather than hours and minutes. This absence of urgency allows everything to proceed without pressure. Signals traveling through space fade as they move outward. Information spreads and weakens, becoming part of the background. Nothing demands constant attention. Messages arrive quietly if they arrive at all. Space does not amplify noise. It absorbs it. Even extreme objects, like neutron stars, are governed by balance. Their density is immense, yet they remain stable for long periods. They rotate steadily, emitting regular signals that act like slow cosmic clocks. Consistency exists even under extreme conditions. Space contains many cycles. Orbits repeat, rotations continue. Light pulses arrive at predictable intervals. These repeating patterns create a sense of order that does not depend on awareness. The universe does not need to be observed to remain consistent. As systems grow older, they often become calmer. Energy decreases, motion settles. The universe slowly moves towards a quieter state. This long-term trend reinforces the feeling of rest rather than activity. As you lie still, Earth continues its motion without effort. The atmosphere remains stable. Gravity holds everything in place. Beyond the sky, space continues its patient processes, unchanged by observation. The narration moves forward quietly, matching this steady rhythm, allowing your mind to slow as the universe carries on. Far from planets and stars, space becomes increasingly uniform. In these distant regions, temperature differences fade, and motion slows to a quiet drift. Energy spreads thinly, leaving behind an environment where little changes from one moment to the next. These areas are not empty in an absolute sense, but they are balanced, with nothing dominating, nothing competing, and nothing demanding attention. Particles move through these regions on long, uninterrupted paths. Without air or friction, a single particle can travel for years, even centuries, without altering its direction. This persistence creates continuity rather than activity. Movement exists, but it is gentle and unforced, guided only by gravity and the momentum already present. There is no resistance to slow things down, and no pressure to speed them up. Motion simply continues. Gravity itself extends everywhere, though its influence weakens with distance. Even so, it never fully disappears. Across immense expanses, gravity subtly shapes motion, nudging objects into slow curves rather than straight lines. These influences are so mild that they take millions of years to become noticeable, reinforcing the sense that space prefers gradual outcomes over sudden change. Nothing is pulled sharply. Everything is guided softly. Stars that appear isolated are often part of much larger systems. They may belong to streams of stars moving together through the galaxy, sharing a common origin from the same ancient cloud of gas. Over time, these streams stretch out and become less distinct, blending into the surrounding star field. Even after billions of years, their shared motion remains, a quiet memory of their formation still present in their paths. Galactic motion is steady and deliberate. Stars orbit the center of their galaxy in wide, slow arcs, maintaining their relative positions for extremely long periods. This creates a stable environment where large-scale structure changes only gradually. Even when galaxies interact or pass near one another, their stars usually glide past without collision. Distances are so vast that disruption is rare and calm is preserved. Energy released by stars travels outward endlessly. As it spreads, it becomes less concentrated, blending into the background of space. Over time, sharp sources of brightness soften into faint glows. This gradual diffusion reduces contrast and intensity, creating a universe that grows quieter as it ages. Nothing remains sharp forever. Brightness fades, edges blur, and extremes soften. The absence of sound in space deepens this sense of calm. Without air, vibrations cannot travel. Events that would be loud on Earth happen silently. Motion, impact, and transformation occur without noise or echo. Silence is not imposed or enforced. It is simply the natural state of the environment, uninterrupted and complete. Surfaces of airless worlds remain unchanged for immense spans of time. Without wind, rain, or flowing water, there is nothing to erase marks left behind. Craters remain visible. Shadows stay fixed. Patterns formed long ago persist with little alteration. Time passes, but its effects are gentle, preserving history rather than removing it. Even radiation moves quietly. Invisible waves pass through space without disturbance, carrying information without sound or sensation. These signals weaken as they travel, gradually dissolving into the background. Nothing arrives with force. Everything fades slowly with distance and time. The universe does not build toward tension or urgency. Energy spreads outward. Motion stabilizes. Systems settle into arrangements that can last for billions of years. Activity gives way to consistency. Change gives way to balance. On the largest scales, the universe becomes calmer, not more chaotic. As you remain still, these distant processes continue without effort. Space maintains its quiet order. Motion persists gently. Energy continues to disperse. There is no requirement to stay alert or attentive. The universe allows stillness, and the narration follows that same steady path, carrying you calmly forward as time unfolds. Across the vast stretches of space, distance shapes everything that happens. The farther objects are from one another, the more slowly their interactions unfold. Forces weaken with distance, light spreads out, and motion becomes gentle. This gradual softening is one of the defining qualities of the universe. Nothing is compressed, nothing is hurried. Everything has room to exist without interference. In these wide expanses, isolation is common. Stars may drift for billions of years without coming close to another system. Planets follow their paths without interruption. Even galaxies, enormous as they are, spend long periods moving quietly through space with little interaction. Isolation in space does not create instability. Instead, it allows systems to remain undisturbed, preserving balance over long spans of time. Time itself feels different on these scales. Human experience is shaped by short cycles, days and years that repeat quickly. In space, cycles are vast. A single orbit around a galaxy can take hundreds of millions of years. Changes that feel dramatic on Earth become nearly invisible when spread across such durations. This stretches perception until urgency fades away. Many objects in space remain unchanged for longer than life has existed on Earth. Asteroids retain their shapes, craters remain sharp, surfaces hold the marks of ancient events. Without weather or erosion, time leaves only subtle traces. History is layered gently rather than erased. The light traveling through space carries information, but it also loses intensity as it goes. Bright sources slowly dim, colors soften, edges blur. This process is not destructive, it is smoothing. Light disperses until it becomes part of the background, contributing to the quiet glow that fills the universe. Darkness in space is not absolute. Even in regions far from stars, faint radiation is present. This background light is a remnant of the early universe, stretched thin over time. It arrives from all directions equally, creating a uniform backdrop. There are no bright contrasts here, only gentle presence. Matter in space often exists in simple forms. Hydrogen and helium dominate, drifting freely in thin clouds. Heavier elements are less common and usually found near stars or within planets. Over time, matter cycles between these states, moving slowly from clouds to stars and back again. The cycle is long and patient. Dust grains, though tiny, play an important role. They absorb light, soften radiation, and provide surfaces where molecules can form. These grains drift quietly, shaping the appearance of nebulae and galaxies. Without them, space would be harsher and more exposed. With them, it becomes muted and textured. Even when matter gathers, it does so slowly. Gravity pulls material inward over millions of years. Clouds collapse gently. Density increases gradually. There is no sudden assembly. Everything happens step by step, allowing balance to be maintained throughout the process. Star formation is often imagined as dramatic, but in reality, it is extended and calm. A star may take millions of years to fully ignite. During this time, it remains hidden within clouds of gas and dust. Only when it begins producing steady light does it become visible. The transition is smooth rather than abrupt. Once formed, stars settle into long periods of stability. They shine steadily, converting fuel into energy at a consistent rate. This phase lasts far longer than any other stage of a star's life. Change is minimal. Brightness remains even. Motion remains balanced. Planetary systems inherit this calm. Orbits remain steady. Rotations continue. Moons follow their paths. Disturbances are rare. When they occur, they usually unfold slowly, giving systems time to adjust. Space does not favor sudden rearrangement. Temperature variations in space are extreme, yet stable. In sunlight, surfaces can become warm. In shadow, they cool rapidly. But without air, there is no mixing. Heat stays where it is. Cold remains undisturbed. These conditions persist until position changes, which happens slowly. The absence of atmosphere also removes sound and weather. There is no wind, no rain, no turbulence. Surfaces remain still. Shadows remain fixed. Motion is clean and uninterrupted. Space removes layers of complexity, leaving only essential movement. Even large objects behave predictably. Planets do not wander randomly. Stars do not drift without pattern. Galaxies do not scatter. Gravity provides structure without forcefulness. Paths curve gently. Balance is restored naturally. When systems grow large enough, individual movements become less important. From a distance, complexity blends into simplicity. Billions of stars become a smooth glow. Countless motions combine into steady rotation. The universe becomes easier to describe as scale increases. Expansion continues everywhere. Space itself stretches, carrying galaxies apart. This expansion is slow and uniform. It does not tear objects away from one another within systems. Instead, it acts on the largest scales, quietly increasing distance over time. As expansion continues, energy becomes more spread out. Radiation cools, structures drift farther apart. The universe gradually becomes more uniform and less intense. This is not decay. It is relaxation on a cosmic scale. Time moves forward evenly throughout all of this. There is no pause, no acceleration. The pace is set by fundamental rules that do not change. These rules apply everywhere, creating consistency across vast distances. Nothing in space requires observation to continue. Stars do not need to be seen to shine. Orbits do not need to be measured to remain stable. The universe operates independently, following patterns that were established long ago. As you lie still, your position on Earth is part of this larger motion. The planet turns. The atmosphere remains calm. Gravity holds everything gently in place. Beyond the sky, space continues its quiet processes, unaffected by awareness or attention. There is no goal toward which the universe rushes, no moment it prepares for. Everything unfolds at its own pace. Events that will happen millions of years from now are already set into motion, moving slowly toward outcomes that will feel natural when they arrive. This long perspective reduces urgency. It removes pressure. Nothing needs to happen quickly. Nothing is behind schedule. The universe has time. The narration follows this same rhythm. It does not hurry. It does not build tension. It continues steadily, allowing thoughts to slow and loosen. There is room for silence between ideas, room for rest between words. As space stretches outward, as light fades gently into darkness, as motion continues without effort, there is no demand placed on you. You do not need to listen closely. You do not need to remember details. The universe continues quietly, and the narration moves alongside it, calm and consistent, carrying you forward as rest deepens. Movement in space often feels effortless, as if nothing is being pushed or pulled with intention. Objects continue along their paths simply because there is nothing to stop them. In the absence of friction, motion does not require energy to be maintained. Once something is moving, it keeps moving, guided only by gravity and the shape of space around it. This creates a universe where continuity is more common than change. Trajectories stretch across immense distances. A small object can travel for millions of years without encountering anything significant. These long journeys are not purposeful. They are the natural result of initial conditions set long ago. Space remembers motion and preserves it, allowing paths to extend far beyond human scales of time and distance. Gravity shapes these paths gently. Instead of sharp turns, it creates curves. Instead of sudden pulls, it produces gradual deflection. Orbits form where motion and gravity balance one another. Once this balance is reached, it tends to remain stable. Small variations are absorbed over time, smoothing irregularities rather than amplifying them. Even chaotic regions eventually settle. After disturbances, matter redistributes. Energy spreads. Motion becomes more uniform. The universe does not favor lasting turbulence. Over long periods, calm always returns. This tendency toward equilibrium is present everywhere, from small systems to the largest structures. Light continues to move steadily through space, unaffected by time or distance in its own frame. From the perspective of light, its journey is instantaneous. From every other perspective, it takes time. This difference allows light to connect distant regions without urgency. Information arrives eventually, not immediately. As light travels, it interacts subtly with gravity, bending as it passes massive objects. This bending is smooth and continuous, altering direction without disruption. Space itself guides light, shaping its path gently rather than forcing it into new directions. Color in space fades with distance. Energetic light stretches into longer wavelengths as space expands. Bright blues soften into reds, and reds drift toward invisibility. Over time, radiation cools. Intensity decreases. The universe becomes quieter in both light and energy. Matter responds similarly. Over time, dense regions spread out. Sharp boundaries blur. Concentrations dissolve gradually. Nothing holds tightly forever. Everything is allowed to relax. Large structures such as galaxy clusters remain bound for long periods, but even they evolve. Their internal motions slowly change. Galaxies drift within them, exchanging energy through gravity. These exchanges are subtle and slow, producing gentle rearrangements rather than disruption. Within galaxies, stars follow stable paths. Their orbits change only slightly over time. Encounters between stars are rare. Distances are vast. Most stars live their entire lives without passing close to another. Isolation is the norm, and it supports stability. Planetary systems share this isolation. Each system exists largely on its own, unaffected by others. This separation allows orbits to remain predictable. Motion continues without interference. Space provides room for persistence. Even when objects do interact, the interaction unfolds slowly. A passing star may slightly alter a distant orbit. A cloud of gas may compress gently. Effects take time to appear. Nothing happens suddenly. Time flows evenly through all of this. It does not pause in empty regions or accelerate near activity. It moves at a steady pace, measured not by clocks, but by change. Where change is slow, time feels expansive. Where change is faster, time feels compressed. Space contains both, balanced across scale. The future of space is not dramatically different from its present. Expansion will continue. Energy will spread further. Structures will grow more distant from one another. The universe will become more uniform, more even, and quieter still. This process is not abrupt. It unfolds over unimaginable spans of time. There is no final moment toward which everything moves. No sudden ending, only continued spreading, cooling, and balancing. Space does not rush toward completion. It simply continues. As you rest, your own stillness mirrors this cosmic pattern. Breathing slows, thoughts drift, awareness softens. You are supported by gravity, surrounded by calm, carried along by motion you do not feel. Beyond the atmosphere, beyond the moon, beyond the sun, space continues its slow unfolding. Light travels, matter drifts. Time moves forward without demand. Nothing calls for attention, nothing requires effort. The narration follows the same principle. It does not insist, it does not accelerate. It moves steadily, allowing space between ideas, allowing silence to exist naturally. You are free to follow it or let it pass unnoticed. Everything continues either way. Gradually, the universe settles into patterns that repeat without effort. Motion continues, not because it is pushed, but because nothing interrupts it. Objects follow paths laid out long ago, tracing curves through space that remain stable over enormous spans of time. This persistence gives the universe its quiet reliability. Nothing needs to be adjusted moment to moment. Everything continues on its own. In space, stability is more common than disruption. Most systems exist in states that resist change. Orbits remain balanced. Rotations continue at steady rates. Even when small disturbances occur, systems tend to absorb them gently. Energy redistributes, motion smooths out, balance is restored. Space is forgiving in this way, allowing irregularities to fade rather than grow. Distance plays a central role in maintaining this calm. The farther apart objects are, the weaker their interactions become. Forces spread thin, influence diminishes. This separation prevents overcrowding and conflict. Space provides room for everything to exist without interference. It is not empty by accident, but by necessity. Light traveling across these distances carries no urgency. It moves at a constant speed, unaffected by fatigue or intention. Yet as it travels, it becomes less concentrated. Brightness fades, details soften. Over long journeys, light blends into the background glow. Nothing remains sharp forever. Matter behaves in a similar way. Dense regions gradually spread out. Particles drift apart unless held together by gravity. Over time, sharp contrasts soften. Extremes lessen. Space encourages moderation rather than intensity. Even the most energetic events are brief compared to the calm that surrounds them. A burst of radiation, a stellar collapse, or a collision may occur, but afterward, space returns to stillness. These moments are rare interruptions in an otherwise steady existence. The universe spends most of its time at rest. Large-scale motion appears smooth because countless small motions blend together. Individual variations average out. From a distance, complexity fades into simplicity. Galaxies rotate, clusters drift. The overall picture remains calm and predictable. As systems age, they tend to become quieter. Energy is gradually lost to space. Motion slows. Change becomes less frequent. The universe moves gently toward equilibrium, not through force, but through patience. Time stretches across all of this without pause. It does not react to emptiness or activity. It moves forward evenly, marking change where it occurs, and passing quietly where it does not. In vast regions where little changes, time feels almost still. Nothing in space requires coordination. There is no central direction, no guiding signal. Order emerges naturally from simple rules applied everywhere. Motion follows paths. Energy disperses. Balance forms on its own. As you rest, this quiet order continues. Earth turns. Gravity holds gently. The sky above remains unchanged. Beyond it, the universe carries on without effort or intention, calm and steady, allowing rest to deepen as everything else continues naturally. Long after individual events fade, their effects remain spread thinly throughout space. Energy released long ago continues to travel, stretched across distance and time. Matter once gathered disperses slowly, becoming part of the broader environment. Nothing truly disappears. It simply becomes less concentrated, less defined, and less urgent. The future of the universe is shaped by this same tendency. Expansion continues. Space grows larger. Distances increase. Interactions become less frequent. Over immense spans of time, galaxies will drift farther apart, and light will take longer to cross the gaps between them. The universe will not end abruptly. It will gradually become quieter. Stars will eventually exhaust their fuel. Some will fade gently. Others will leave behind dense remnants that persist quietly. Planets will continue orbiting long after their stars change. Motion will persist even as energy diminishes. Darkness will become more common, not because light disappears, but because it spreads too thin to dominate. The universe will remain active, but softly so. Processes will continue, but at an even slower pace. Temperature differences will decrease. Energy will distribute more evenly. Extremes will soften. This gradual cooling is not collapse. It is relaxation. The universe unwinds slowly, releasing tension that was never urgent to begin with. Even as change slows, time continues. There is no final moment, no stopping point, just ongoing continuation. The universe does not move toward an ending. It moves toward balance. Nothing resists this process. There is no struggle, no opposition. Everything follows the same simple rules it always has. Energy spreads, motion persists. Structure remains where it can, dissolves where it cannot. Awareness is not required for any of this. The universe does not depend on observation. It does not react to attention or absence. It simply continues. This indifference is not cold. It is neutral. It allows rest. It removes expectation. Nothing is demanded. As you lie still, your own body follows similar principles. Energy slows, muscles release tension, breathing becomes steady, thought patterns soften. There is no need to guide this process. It unfolds naturally. Outside, Earth remains stable. The atmosphere holds warmth. Gravity provides support. Beyond that, space continues its long, quiet journey toward balance. The narration does not need to conclude anything. It simply continues like the universe itself, steady and unhurried, allowing stillness to deepen without interruption. Eventually, attention becomes unnecessary, not because nothing exists, but because everything continues without needing to be noticed. The universe does not change its behavior when it is ignored. Stars continue to shine. Motion continues along its paths. Time continues to pass. Awareness is optional, never required. This independence is one of the most calming qualities of space. Nothing depends on observation to function. No system waits for recognition. No process pauses until it is understood. The universe unfolds according to simple rules that apply everywhere, all the time, without adjustment or supervision. Space allows things to happen without effort. Motion does not need fuel to continue once it has begun. Light does not need direction to travel. Gravity does not need intention to shape paths. Everything proceeds naturally, guided by conditions set long ago. Distance plays a quiet but essential role in this calm. Vast separation prevents interference. Objects exist with room around them. Forces weaken gently with space. This spacing removes urgency and conflict, allowing systems to remain stable for immense spans of time. As the universe expands, this spacing increases. Galaxies drift farther apart. Interactions become rarer. Light takes longer to cross the growing distances. The universe does not tighten or compress. It relaxes outward, slowly and evenly, in all directions at once. Expansion does not disrupt what already exists. Within galaxies, stars continue their orbits. Within solar systems, planets remain bound. Expansion acts only on the largest scales, stretching the space between distant structures without disturbing their internal balance. This gentle expansion shapes the long future of the universe. Over time, energy spreads thinner. Radiation cools. Brightness softens. The universe becomes quieter, not suddenly, but gradually, through countless small changes that accumulate over unimaginable durations. Stars will not all disappear at once. They will fade individually, each according to its own timeline. Some will shine steadily for trillions of years. Others will change more quickly. Even after stars no longer shine, their remnants will persist, stable and quiet. Planets will continue orbiting long after their stars change. Motion will persist even in darkness. Gravity will continue shaping paths, even when light is scarce. The universe does not stop when brightness fades. It continues in softer forms. Temperature differences will diminish over time. Energy will distribute more evenly. Extremes will soften. The universe will move toward a state of balance, not through collapse, but through gradual relaxation. This process has no deadline. It unfolds naturally, without urgency. Time does not hurry this process. It flows evenly, marking change where it occurs and passing quietly where it does not. In regions where little happens, time feels expansive. In regions of activity, it feels more compressed. Both coexist without conflict. Nothing in space resists this long-term trend. There is no struggle against balance. Energy follows the same rules everywhere. Motion obeys the same principles. The universe does not argue with itself. It proceeds calmly. Order in space does not require control. It emerges from consistency. The same physical laws apply in every direction, at every scale. Because of this, patterns repeat. Stability forms naturally. Chaos fades into regularity. Even complexity settles into simplicity when viewed across enough distance or time. Billions of individual motions become smooth rotation. Countless interactions become steady structure. The larger the scale, the calmer the appearance. The universe does not reward speed. Fast processes burn out quickly. Slow processes endure. Stability is favored over intensity. Persistence matters more than impact. This preference shapes everything. Stars that burn slowly last longer. Orbits that remain balanced persist. Structures that change gently survive. Space selects for calmness over time. Awareness does not influence these outcomes. Observation does not accelerate or delay them. The universe does not adjust its behavior based on attention. It simply continues. This lack of demand creates freedom. Nothing needs to be followed. Nothing must be tracked. There is no requirement to stay alert or engaged. Space allows drifting. Eventually, attention becomes unnecessary, not because there is nothing to notice, but because everything continues, whether it is noticed or not. The universe does not depend on observation. Stars do not shine more brightly when they are seen. Orbits do not remain stable because they are measured. Time does not slow or speed up because it is felt. Everything continues according to patterns set long before awareness existed. This independence is one of the quiet strengths of the universe. Nothing waits, nothing pauses. Processes unfold at their own pace, guided by conditions that do not change from moment to moment. Gravity continues to shape motion. Light continues to travel. Space continues to expand. These things happen without instruction and without interruption. Across vast distances, motion appears almost still. A star may move thousands of kilometers every second, yet from far away it seems fixed. A galaxy may rotate continuously, yet its shape appears unchanged across generations. Scale softens movement. Distance transforms speed into calm. Light carries information across these distances, but it does so patiently. When light leaves a star, it does not hurry. It travels at a constant speed, unaffected by fatigue or resistance. Over time, that light spreads out, becoming less intense, less concentrated, and more evenly distributed. Brightness fades, not because it is lost, but because it is shared across a larger space. As the universe expands, this spreading continues. Galaxies move farther apart. The space between them grows. Light traveling through that space stretches, shifting toward longer wavelengths. Colors slowly move toward red, then beyond visibility, energy cools, intensity softens. The universe becomes quieter, not suddenly, but steadily. This long-term quieting is not decay, it is balance. Energy moves from concentrated forms to distributed ones. Motion smooths out. Extremes fade. The universe does not collapse into chaos. It relaxes into uniformity. Stars play a central role in this process. For most of their lives, stars exist in stable equilibrium. Gravity pulls inward. Energy pushes outward. These forces balance, allowing stars to shine steadily for millions or billions of years. During this time, change is minimal. Brightness remains consistent. Structure remains intact. When stars do change, they do so gradually. Fuel is consumed slowly. Layers adjust. Some stars expand gently. Others contract. Even dramatic transformations unfold over long periods. Sudden moments are rare compared to the long stretches of calm that surround them. After stars finish shining, their remnants remain. White dwarfs cool slowly. Neutron stars rotate steadily. Black holes persist quietly, influencing their surroundings through gravity alone. These objects do not rush toward an end. They simply continue, stable and silent. Planets orbiting stars inherit this calm. Their paths remain steady. Rotations continue. Moons follow predictable cycles. Disturbances are rare and usually mild. Space provides enough distance for systems to remain undisturbed. Even asteroids and small bodies move along long, gentle paths. Most never collide with anything. They travel quietly through space for millions of years, unchanged except by time itself. Space offers room for persistence. On larger scales, galaxies follow similar principles. Stars orbit galactic centers in wide arcs. These orbits take hundreds of millions of years to complete. Over such spans, change is subtle. Structure remains recognizable for long periods. Galaxies group together in clusters, bound by gravity. These clusters move slowly, interacting gently. Even when galaxies pass near one another, their stars usually do not collide. Distances are too great. Motion remains smooth. Beyond clusters lie vast regions with very little matter. These cosmic voids occupy most of the universe's volume. They are not completely empty, but they are quiet. Few interactions occur here. Motion is minimal. Time passes without disturbance. In these regions, temperature approaches uniformity. Energy differences fade. Radiation spreads thinly. The universe becomes increasingly even. This trend continues across all scales. Time itself flows steadily through all of this. It does not speed up in empty space or slow down in crowded regions. It moves forward evenly, marking change where change occurs, and passing quietly where it does not. In places where little happens, time feels expansive. In places of activity, it feels compressed. Both experiences coexist naturally. The future of the universe follows from these same principles. Expansion continues. Distances increase. Interactions become rarer. Energy spreads further. The universe grows quieter, not because processes stop, but because they become more spread out. There is no final moment toward which everything moves, no sudden ending, just continued unfolding. Space does not prepare for a conclusion, it allows continuation. This absence of urgency is important. Nothing in the universe is late, nothing is behind schedule. Everything unfolds according to conditions rather than deadlines. Awareness is not required for any of this. Observation does not accelerate or delay outcomes. The universe does not respond to attention. It remains consistent whether watched or ignored. This consistency creates freedom. There is nothing to manage, nothing to track, nothing that requires intervention. Space allows drifting. Your own body follows similar patterns. When effort is removed, balance returns. Breathing slows naturally. Muscles release tension. Heart rhythms settle. These changes do not need to be forced. They emerge when interference fades. Rest is not something that must be achieved. It appears when activity quiets. The universe demonstrates this continuously. When energy spreads out, intensity fades. When motion stabilizes, calm emerges. Above Earth's atmosphere, there is no wind, no weather, no sound. Motion exists without turbulence. Change occurs without friction. Space removes layers of complexity, leaving only essential movement. Even near stars, silence remains. Radiation flows outward steadily. Gravity holds gently. Nothing vibrates, nothing echoes. Silence is complete, not because nothing happens, but because nothing needs to announce itself. Darkness in space is not emptiness. It is filled with faint background radiation, evenly distributed in all directions. This radiation is a quiet echo of the universe's earliest moments, stretched thin by time and expansion. It is always present, always calm. History in space is preserved gently. Without erosion, marks remain. Craters persist. Surfaces hold their past. Time does not erase quickly. It softens slowly. Over longer periods, Even these traces fade. Radiation thins, structures drift apart, distances grow. The universe remembers, but loosely. Nothing builds toward tension. Energy spreads, motion smooths, systems settle into long-lasting arrangements. The universe does not gather pressure, it releases it. This release happens continuously. There is no moment when it begins or ends. It is simply the way space behaves. The narration follows this same rhythm. It does not demand focus. It does not build toward a climax. It exists as part of the environment, steady and unobtrusive. You do not need to listen closely. You do not need to remember details. The words can pass without being held. Like distant starlight, they can be present without attention. As rest deepens, awareness may soften. Thoughts may slow, attention may drift. This is not loss. It is alignment with the pace of everything else. While you remain still, Earth continues rotating. The atmosphere remains calm. Gravity holds gently. The planet follows its path without effort. Beyond the moon, beyond the sun, beyond the edges of the solar system, space continues its quiet expansion. Light travels, matter drifts, time passes. Nothing calls for response. Nothing requires action. Nothing depends on awareness. The universe allows stillness. It allows rest. It allows absence of effort. And so the narration continues quietly, without urgency and without conclusion, matching the steady pace of everything beyond the sky, remaining present only as long as needed, and fading naturally as rest takes over. Beyond what can be seen from Earth, space continues to reveal patterns that repeat without effort. One of these patterns is the slow recycling of matter. Atoms that once formed stars eventually drift back into space, becoming part of new clouds. These clouds move gently, shaped by gravity and time, carrying the ingredients for future stars and planets. Nothing is wasted, nothing is hurried. Matter simply changes form. Hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, drifts freely through space. It gathers slowly in large clouds, sometimes spanning hundreds of light years. These clouds are cold and quiet. Inside them, particles move slowly, rarely colliding. Over long periods, gravity causes small regions to become slightly denser than their surroundings. These differences are subtle, but over millions of years, they grow. As density increases, temperature rises gradually. Pressure builds gently. Eventually, fusion may begin, and a new star forms. This process is not explosive. It is patient. For a long time, the forming star remains hidden, wrapped in gas and dust. Only when its light becomes steady does it begin to shape its surroundings. The light from a new star pushes outward, slowly clearing nearby space. Gas drifts away. Dust settles into disks. Within these disks, small particles collide and stick together. Over time, these tiny clusters grow larger. This is how planets begin, not through sudden creation, but through countless small interactions that accumulate quietly. Some planets remain small and rocky. Others gather large amounts of gas and become massive worlds with thick atmospheres. These planets do not choose their form. Their structure reflects their environment, their distance from the star, and the materials available during formation. Every planetary system is slightly different, shaped by subtle variations in its beginnings. Once planets settle into orbit, they tend to remain there. Gravity keeps them balanced. Motion repeats. Cycles establish themselves. Day follows night. Orbits repeat year after year. This repetition creates stability, allowing systems to persist for billions of years. Moons form in similar ways. Some condense from disks of material around planets. Others are captured gently by gravity. Once in orbit, they follow predictable paths. Some rotate slowly, others quickly. Some always show the same face to their planet. These synchronized motions create a sense of stillness, even within movement. Farther out, beyond planets and moons, small icy bodies drift through space. These objects remain unchanged for long periods, preserved by cold and distance. Occasionally, one may pass close to a star, warming slightly and releasing gas. Even then, the change is temporary. Afterward, the object returns to quiet darkness. Across the galaxy, similar processes occur again and again. New stars form. Old stars fade. Matter circulates slowly. The galaxy evolves without urgency. Its overall shape remains recognizable, even as individual components change. The Milky Way itself is one of countless galaxies. Each contains billions of stars, yet the space between stars is immense. Most stars never come close to another. This separation prevents frequent interaction, allowing systems to remain stable. Space favors distance because distance preserves calm. On even larger scales, galaxies arrange themselves into long filaments separated by vast voids. These structures resemble networks, stretching across the universe. Yet even these patterns are not rigid. They shift slowly, guided by gravity over billions of years. The universe organizes itself gently, without sharp boundaries. The background radiation that fills all of space remains one of the most uniform features of the universe. This faint glow is almost perfectly even in every direction. It carries information from a time when the universe was much smaller and hotter. Over time, expansion has stretched this radiation, cooling it until it is barely detectable. Still, it remains everywhere, quiet and constant. Temperature throughout space is remarkably consistent when averaged over large scales. While local extremes exist near stars or energetic events, most of the universe is cold and calm. Energy spreads evenly, reducing contrast. Over time, differences fade. This trend continues into the distant future. As expansion proceeds, energy becomes increasingly diluted. Light takes longer to travel between objects. Eventually, distant galaxies will fade from view, not because they disappear, but because their light becomes too stretched to detect. Darkness increases, but motion continues. Even in this distant future, gravity remains. Objects that are already bound stay together. Stars continue orbiting within galaxies. Planets continue orbiting stars. Motion persists even when light is scarce. The universe does not stop when visibility decreases. Time continues to pass, marking change where it occurs and passing quietly where it does not. There is no global clock that signals progress. Each region follows its own rhythm, shaped by local conditions. Together, these rhythms create the steady flow of cosmic time. Nothing in this process requires guidance. The universe does not adjust its behavior based on outcomes. It does not correct itself. It simply follows the same rules everywhere, producing consistency across vast scales. This consistency allows prediction, but it does not demand attention. You do not need to track motion or measure time for these processes to continue. The universe functions independently, allowing observers to rest. Your rest fits naturally into this pattern. While your body slows, the universe continues at its own pace. There is no conflict between stillness and motion. Both exist together, balanced. As breathing becomes steady, as thoughts soften, the surrounding world remains stable. Earth continues its rotation. The night sky remains unchanged. Beyond it, space continues its long, quiet expansion. There is no need to stay alert. Nothing requires response. The universe does not expect awareness. It allows drifting, just as it allows motion. The narration remains present only as long as it is useful. It does not insist on completion. It does not signal an ending. Like space itself, it simply continues, steady and unobtrusive, fading naturally as rest deepens and attention dissolves. In the quiet between stars, space holds its shape without effort. There is no boundary that must be maintained, no structure that needs reinforcement. The geometry of space itself remains consistent, allowing motion to unfold smoothly. Paths curve gently, distances stretch naturally. Nothing resists the way things move. Even emptiness has properties. Space can expand, it can bend, it can carry light and radiation without friction. These qualities exist everywhere, unchanged by location. A region of space far from any galaxy behaves the same way as space near a star. This uniformity is one of the reasons the universe remains so calm on large scales. Light traveling through space carries not only energy, but also information about where it came from. The color of light reveals temperature. Its spectrum reveals composition. Yet this information does not announce itself. It remains embedded quietly within the light, available but not demanded. The universe stores knowledge passively, without urgency. As light travels farther, that information becomes less precise. Wavelengths stretch, signals weaken, fine details blur. This loss of sharpness is not destruction. It is smoothing. The universe prefers gentle gradients over sharp edges. Matter behaves in much the same way. Clumps spread out, differences fade, sharp contrasts soften. Over long periods, the universe trends toward evenness, not through force, but through patience. Even gravity, which shapes structure everywhere, acts slowly when distances are large. Its influence diminishes gently, never disappearing completely. Over millions of years, it can alter paths that seem fixed in the short term. Over billions of years, it can reshape entire regions of space, but it never rushes. This slow influence creates stability rather than disruption. Objects are guided, not dragged. Orbits settle naturally. Motion finds balance. Once achieved, that balance tends to persist. The universe rarely wastes energy. When energy is released, it spreads outward, becoming part of the background. When matter changes form, it remains matter. Nothing is lost completely. Everything becomes part of something larger and quieter. The cold of space is not hostile. It is neutral. Without atmosphere, heat cannot spread easily, but neither can it be removed quickly unless radiation allows it. Objects in shadow cool. Objects in light warm. These conditions remain steady until position changes. Change itself happens slowly. Silence in space is complete because there is nothing to carry sound. Vibrations require a medium. Without air, without matter close together, sound cannot exist. Events occur without noise. Motion has no voice. Transformation leaves no echo. This silence is not emptiness. It is fullness without disturbance. Space is active, but quietly so. It contains motion, energy, and structure, all functioning without announcement. Over time, stars that once shaped their surroundings fade. Their influence weakens. Radiation disperses. Regions once bright become dim. Yet even then, motion continues. Gravity remains. Orbits persist. The absence of light does not mean the absence of structure. Planets continue their paths, even when their stars grow faint. Moons remain bound. Motion outlives brightness. This persistence shows that energy and visibility are not the same. Things can continue long after they stop being seen. The future universe will likely be darker, quieter, and more spread out, but it will not be empty. It will still contain matter, motion, and time. Processes will continue, though slowly. The universe does not end. It thins. As space stretches further, regions become more isolated. Signals take longer to cross distances. Interaction becomes rare. Yet isolation does not create instability. It creates calm. Without interference, systems remain unchanged. This gradual separation reduces complexity. Without frequent interaction, nothing needs to adjust. Motion becomes simpler. Patterns persist. Time flows through all of this evenly. It does not respond to isolation or activity. It does not hurry when things are crowded or slow down when things are sparse. It simply moves forward, steady and neutral. This neutrality allows rest. There is no urgency built into reality itself. Nothing pushes toward immediate outcomes. Everything unfolds at its own pace. Your own experience mirrors this when you rest. As effort decreases, systems stabilize. Breathing evens out. Muscles relax. Thoughts lose sharp edges. Nothing needs to be directed. Balance returns naturally. Rest is not a state that must be reached. It emerges when interference stops. The universe demonstrates this constantly. When energy spreads, intensity fades. When motion stabilizes, calm appears. Above Earth's surface, beyond the thin layer of atmosphere, These principles are on full display. No weather disturbs motion. No sound interrupts silence. Space allows everything to proceed without friction. Even Earth, though active, follows steady cycles. Rotation continues. Orbit repeats. Seasons return predictably. Stability exists within change. Patterns persist. Beyond Earth, the Moon continues its slow orbit. Beyond the Moon, the Sun shines steadily. Beyond the Sun, the solar system moves through the galaxy. Beyond the galaxy, space expands. Each layer moves at its own pace. None interferes with the others. Everything fits together without conflict. There is no requirement to understand this structure. Knowledge is optional. Awareness is optional. The universe does not change when it is ignored. This absence of demand is what makes rest possible. Nothing insists on attention. Nothing requires response. The narration follows the same principle. It does not signal importance. It does not escalate. It remains even, allowing thoughts to come and go without attachment. Words drift past like distant light. They exist, but they do not need to be held. Meaning can be sensed loosely or not at all. Either way, the effect remains the same. As rest deepens, the boundary between listening and not listening softens. Awareness may fade gradually. This is not failure. It is alignment with the pace of everything else. The universe does not mind being unattended. It continues quietly, steadily, without expectation. And so the narration continues in the same way, present without insistence, calm without conclusion, moving forward gently alongside the universe itself, allowing rest to take over naturally, without effort, without urgency, and without end. Nothing in space marks a moment as important. There are no natural signals that announce beginnings or endings. Processes begin gradually and fade just as slowly. Stars do not switch on suddenly, and they do not turn off all at once. Motion does not start with urgency, and it does not stop with finality. Everything blends into what comes before and after it. This blending is one of the reasons the universe feels calm on large scales. Sharp transitions are rare. Most changes occur through long periods of adjustment, where one state slowly becomes another. Gas becomes denser. Light becomes dimmer. Motion becomes smoother. These shifts are continuous, not abrupt. Even events that are energetic by cosmic standards occupy only a small fraction of time. A supernova, for example, may appear dramatic, but compared to the lifespan of a star, it is brief. Afterward, the surrounding region returns to quiet. Matter disperses. Energy spreads. Calm resumes. The remnants of these events persist quietly. Elements created in stellar interiors drift outward, becoming part of interstellar space. Over time, they mix with other material, losing any trace of their origin. History becomes distributed rather than concentrated. Space does not preserve sharp memories. It preserves patterns. Motion continues. Energy flows outward. Matter changes form. Details soften. What remains is structure without tension. Across the universe, similar patterns repeat. Clouds gather slowly. Stars form gently. Systems settle into balance. Over time, they loosen and spread. This cycle has no preferred speed. It unfolds according to conditions rather than schedules. Distance ensures that most regions remain unaffected by what happens elsewhere. An event in one part of a galaxy rarely influences another part directly. Even within galaxies, interactions are limited. Space provides separation, and separation provides calm. This separation also means that silence dominates. Without frequent interaction, there is little disturbance. Motion continues, but quietly. Change happens, but slowly. The vacuum of space does not resist motion. Once something begins moving, it will continue unless acted upon. This persistence removes the need for effort. Motion becomes a default state rather than an active one. Gravity introduces gentle guidance. It curves paths, but it does not demand speed. It allows objects to find stable routes that repeat endlessly. Once established, these routes rarely change. The repetition of motion creates rhythm. Orbits repeat. Rotations continue. Cycles return. This rhythm exists without sound. It does not announce itself. It simply persists. Light also follows rhythm. Stars emit energy steadily. Pulsars rotate with remarkable consistency. Signals repeat at predictable intervals. These regular patterns act like quiet clocks, marking time without noise. Time itself is not marked by ticks or beats. It is marked by change. Where change is slow, time feels open. Where change is faster, time feels compressed. Both experiences exist simultaneously in different regions of the universe. Nothing in space attempts to synchronize these experiences. Each region follows its own pace. There is no global rhythm that everything must match. Diversity of timing is allowed. Despite this, the universe remains coherent. The same physical rules apply everywhere. Gravity behaves the same. Light travels the same way. Energy follows the same principles. This consistency allows systems to coexist without conflict. As expansion continues, distances grow, but rules do not change. Space stretches, but behavior remains familiar. Objects do not need to adapt. They continue as they are. Over extremely long periods, isolation increases. Regions drift farther apart. Signals take longer to arrive. Interaction becomes less common. This does not create instability. It creates stillness. In this future, the universe does not become chaotic. It becomes quiet. Motion remains, but without frequent disturbance. Energy remains, but spread thinly. Structure remains, but gently. Darkness becomes more common, but darkness does not mean absence. It means low intensity. It means energy is present, but evenly distributed. It means nothing stands out sharply. The background radiation that fills space remains one of the most constant features of the universe. Even as everything else changes, this faint glow persists. It does not flicker or fade quickly. It remains uniform, steady, and calm. This uniformity connects all regions of space. Even the most distant places share the same background. No region is completely isolated. Everything exists within the same gentle field. The universe does not move toward disorder. It moves toward simplicity. Complexity gives way to uniformity. Sharp contrasts soften. Extremes fade. This trend does not require intention. It is the natural outcome of energy spreading and motion continuing without resistance. Space allows this to happen by offering room. Your own rest reflects this pattern. When tension releases, complexity fades. When effort stops, balance returns. Breathing becomes regular. Muscles loosen. Thoughts lose intensity. You do not need to manage this process. It unfolds naturally when interference fades. The universe demonstrates this constantly. Outside, Earth remains stable. The ground does not shift suddenly. The sky remains unchanged. Night continues quietly. Above the atmosphere, space remains undisturbed. Motion continues without sound. Change occurs without friction. The narration exists in the same way. It does not try to lead or direct. It remains present without insistence. Words pass by like distant objects, noticeable or not. There is no need to follow each sentence. There is no need to form images or conclusions. The sound itself can be enough, or it can fade into the background. Awareness can soften. Attention can drift. This is not losing something. It is releasing effort. The universe does not require attention to function. Neither does rest. And so everything continues quietly. Space expands. Light travels. Matter drifts. Time passes. Nothing demands response. Nothing requires action. The narration remains steady, unhurried, and unobtrusive, continuing alongside the universe itself, allowing stillness to deepen naturally, without direction, without urgency, and without any need to reach an ending. And now there is nothing more you need to follow. The universe continues quietly, just as it always has. Space remains calm. Motion stays gentle. Time moves on without urgency. You can let the words fade into the background. There is no need to listen closely anymore. Rest can take over on its own. Everything is steady. Everything is allowed to slow. And as the night continues, you can simply rest.